Hey everybody, so let's do a little bit of warm up. So at this point, you should have a repository that is your username.github.io, and inside that you should have an index.html file. Mine also has this file, I'll talk about that later. But this is what your github.com repository should look like. So here's my main page. I have kind of a fancy profile, but in my repositories, this is my repository. All right, so that is GitHub. Now I'm going to move to the GitHub desktop app. So I like to call this the purple app because it gets confusing. So the purple app. And I want to make sure that my current repository says alanareese.github.io. If it does not, you can go to repository and say, let's see, you can say clone repository under the file menu. And then if it is connected to github.com, you should see it here. Or you can paste in the URL, which you can get from this little drop down here. So you can grab the HTTPS URL there, and you can paste that in here. Okay, but I am good to go. I can see my repository here. I have no changes. And now I'm going to go to Visual Studio Code. If it's not set up here for you to go to Visual Studio Code, you can change that in your settings. So if you go into settings, you can choose which app. Where is it? Custom editor. You can choose it from here. All right. So let's move over to Visual Studio Code. I think I had you use Emmet to give you the boilerplate HTML. So in case you need that again, basically if you have an empty file and you type in an exclamation point and then hit tab, it will give you that boilerplate. So here's the body. The body is the visual part of the web page. So I'm just going to put welcome back in just so I can test it. So before I had you dragging the file into a browser, but we're going to use what's called live server, and that's going to update automatically so we won't have to keep refreshing our browser. So I'm going to close this. So at the bottom, you should see a button that says go live. And when you click that button, what's going to happen is your default browser is going to open with this page in it. If you don't see go live, you can go to extensions, which is this guy. It's 3, I think there's 4, but whatever. Squares. There's a little error in mine. And if you look for live server, it should show up here. Ritwick Day is the one we're using, is the author of this, and then you'll just install it. And you may have to open and close Visual Studio Code, but it should show up if you relaunch it, if it doesn't show up automatically. One more thing before we get started. So what if you get to Visual Studio Code and you don't see this folder? So I'm just going to close everything for a minute, and then I'm going to just open a new window. So let's say I come here and this is all I have. I don't have my files loaded. So there's no files I can get to. This screen is just a welcome file. You can close that. And let's add that folder again. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to say Open Folder. And I'm going to go find, I have a Sites folder. I'm going to go find that folder that I want. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to say Open. One nice thing to do now while we have this open for the first time is to save this as a quote workspace, which basically is it's just kind of saving your settings. It means that when you open this folder again, or when you open Visual Studio Code again, you can open this workspace. Also, if you end up with multiple repositories, you can add them all. So it's kind of nice. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to say Save Workspace As. And then I'm just going to use the default name that they give me, and I'm going to make sure that it's inside this folder. And then you can actually use that file to launch Visual Studio Code. Okay, so here we are. I'm in my index.html page. I'm going to run the live server. So I'm going to click on Go Live, and it will launch it in my browser. And you can see that this is local because this is the IP address of my local server. This is not visible to anybody outside my computer. So this is not on the internet. This is just local. Cool. So first things first, let's give it a better title. Right now, it just says document. That's very boring. So I'm going to say Alana's homepage. And if I save this, you see it automatically updates. That actually reminds me, let's also, under the file menu, there is a little thing called autosave. Make sure that this is checked. It's going to save your life because it will just autosave. You won't have to think about saving. And if like anything crashes or you close a file without saving it, it will save your stuff. Okay, so let's build this out a little bit. First, I want to kind of use some semantic tags. So I'm going to make a header tag. As you can see, it'll auto complete the tags for me. And then I can just move this text. I'm going to put this in an H1. So I'm going to say H1, and then I'll paste that in there. And I can say, I'll just say Alana's homepage. Okay, there's our H1, there's our header. Now let's have a main section for our page. Let's actually just peek at this. So now I've got that lovely thing. So now I want a main tag. I want to show you something cool about Emmet. So as you saw, I typed in a tag and it finished. There's another way to do this as well. I can just type in the word header and then tab, and it will make the tag. But I don't want a header, I want a main. So I'm going to type in main and then tab. And because I had that typo, see how the Emmet thing went away? So I just like deleted one letter and retyped it, and then Emmet came back. So I'm going to click main. And then I haven't even figured out what I'm going to do here. I guess let's have a section. So I'm going to put a section tag in here. And I'm going to have an H2 at the top of this that says assignments. And then I really haven't thought this out at all. Let's see. Okay, let's do some flexbox. So I'm going to put an article tag inside here. And then I'm going to move that H2. Sorry, I'm kind of going back and forth a bit. Cool. So now I have a section that is a box that has an article box that has an assignments header. And then inside that, below the header, I'm going to make an unordered list. So I'm going to type UL and then tab. And then here's another cool thing. I can say, I want 5 list items. So I'm making an unordered list right now. That's the UL, the U part of the UL. So now I'm going to say I want list items, and I want 5 of them. So LI:5 will give me, I have different things turned on. I have too many different languages. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. I had to look it up. So it is actually asterisk and not colon. So that was all me. So LI*5. That will give me 5 LIs. And then, I don't know, I'm just going to say weekly inspiring site. We'll just leave that as is. I'll just say item 2, item 3, item 4, just so they're not empty, item 5. Okay, so let's see what we've got so far. That is not what we have. Cool, so here's our first one. And then I want to have another article. So I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to copy this article. So from the starting of the article tag to the closing of it, right underneath it, I'm going to paste another one, and I'm going to call this one projects. And maybe I'll just have project 1, project 2 in here. So I'll say project 1, project 2, Cool. So now we have a big section box, and then inside it we have an article box, and we have another article box. So you probably learned this in 341, but basically all of these tags, header, main, section, they basically are just div tags. They're just boxes. They just have different names, so that when you're writing the code, when you're reading the code, or when a screen reader is reading it, they can kind of make sense of things. So this is kind of the equivalent of me just saying, like maybe there's my div of main, and then inside that there's a section div, and then inside that there's an article div, and then div. See, it'll like give you a double typoed thing, and then here's my other article div. This is much harder to read than if we use the semantic tags. Okay, getting rid of that mess. So we have two article boxes. They live inside a section box, and that lives inside a main box. So we can have multiple sections here. But I want to use this section to make a 2-column flex box. So this is going to be column 1, this is going to be column 2. So we need to add some CSS. So we are going to, let's just, underneath the title tag, still inside the head tag here. So we're in the kind of like, I don't know, file information part of the HTML file, not the visual part, which starts at the body. And so right under title, I'm going to type in the word link. And then you hopefully will not see all of these, but if you do, you want to choose link : CSS. Oh, this is why I was confused because of the colon. Cool. So if you type in link : CSS, it'll automatically tell you that the relationship, REL, is a style sheet, and the href to it is style.css. So this is looking for a style.css file that is in the same directory as index.html. So let's create that file. There's these little icons on top. You can always hit Command N or Control N on a PC, or you can type these little buttons, and as long as you're in the same folder as where you want the file, it will put the file there. So style.css. And then I always like to do a sanity check. So it looks like things are linked. Let's make sure they're linked. So let's see. I just to see what we're looking at, this is what we've got. I'm going to change the body to have a background color of red. So I'm going to say background : red. And now if I look at my page, woo, it is red. So I know that my CSS is working. Let's get rid of this. We're going to set a default font for our whole site, and we'll just use one of the built-in fonts. So I'm going to type in the word font, and I get this lovely menu of things to choose from. So I want font family, and should I do Sagoa? I never do that one. Maybe. I'm a fan of Verdana. We'll do Sagoa. Oh, Trebuchet is always nice too. I don't know. So much to choose from. These are all the kind of built-in ones that are, they're like native to browsers. Let's do Gil Sans. Cool. So it's going to give me, it'll use this if it finds it. If it doesn't find it, it'll use this one. If it doesn't find that, it'll use this. If it doesn't find that, it'll use Trebuchet. And then this is like the default. If it can't find anything else, it'll use sans serif. So let's see how that's looking. Better. Okay. Let's get straight to that flexbox. So I am going to put the flexbox on the section, and I'm going to say I want this to have a class of, we'll just, I don't know, 2-call. Seems like a good class name. Remember that you can't have any spaces in between classes. Otherwise, it becomes 2 classes. So if I was to do this, it would mean that I have a class called 2 and a class called call. So I want 2-call. And I don't want to start it with a number because that also makes CSS very mad. So I'm going to just copy this so I don't have typos. I'm going to jump back to my style.css. So they're both open now, so I can kind of jump back and forth from them. And I'm going to put a dot in front of it because it's a class, and to call, and I'm going to say display : flex. And that it'll try its best to give me 2 columns. And it's doing a pretty good job. It doesn't know how wide I want this thing, so it's just putting it side by side, defaulting to that to like the column, column direction. But this is a really small box. Let's actually look and see what the structure of this looks like. So I'm going to give to the header and also to main, and also to section, and also to article. Let's give them all a border, 1 px. I want it to be a solid line, and we'll just make it black. Now I can kind of see what's going on. So it looks like, so here's the head. The head is going all the way across. And then this one is, it looks like there's 2 here. Let's add a little bit of margin so we can see better. Just like a 4 pixel margin on everything all the way around. There we go. Okay, so main goes all the way, section goes all the way, but the 2 articles are smushing in because they don't know how many columns there are. They don't know how big to be. So let's fix that. So we're going to use the cascading part of cascading style sheets, and we're going to say, if you're in a class called 2column and you find an article, then give them a flex of 1. So they're going to have like 50-50 basically. Cool. So now we've got like a 50-50 column, but we also want this to maybe be more narrow. So I'm going to put this on the 2column, which is the section. And I'm going to say, make that whole section be a width of maybe like 60%. Okay, so now there's the section. It's now 60%, but I want the margins to be I want to center it, and I'm going to use margin auto because depending on how wide the browser is, it will like stretch and shrink for that. So I'm going to say margin auto. I could say like 0 space auto so that the bottom and top have no margin, but as you can see, it just automatically kind of defaults to just not adding a margin to the bottom and top. Okay, cool. So getting a little better. Let's see. We're 18 minutes in. I think I'm going to actually stop this here, and then we'll move forward and do some more fun things. Cool. Thanks.